Good evening, everybody. I hope the rainy season has brought some more romance to your life presently, and you must be staying back home waiting for our today's episode once again. So, welcome to AOZ, Association of Zoologists YouTube channel, and in our success stories of zoology alumni. Dr. Shah, again welcome you. This is the sixth episode, and on your demand and your encouragement, we are continuing this particular episodes so that everybody gets inspired and aspired to be a part of zoology. So, before we start our today's program, let me talk something related to AOZ for all those who are new today and listening to us for the first time. So AOZ is Association of Zoologists. It is the one which was established recently in the near future, no past, that is 2019 in the December. It's a non-profit organization registered under Company Act, and our vision is to promote and prominently provide a platform to all the zoologists and zoology related people so that animal science or zoology field gets more developed, and it can really be utilized by people at a large scale. For this, what we are doing is we have different objectives. So we wish to undertake different kind of activities to fulfill the mission and vision of the association, and we do lot of or no scientific gatherings in the form of seminars, symposias, and conferences. We also organize workshops relevant to the allied fields of zoology. We provide good no programs, training programs for young minds who are supposed to be a part of zoology, and we see to it that we promote young zoologists through small grants, fellowships, and travel assistance as well. We also try to see that our voice is being heard during policy making, during different aspects of education in higher education system, which have some concern with respect to the subject zoology. And we are there to conserve animal and their associated environment, directly or indirectly. So those people who are somewhere no willing to be a part of our association can, if you are a zoologist, you can register as a member annually or life member of zoology. If you are not and you are interested in doing some particular activities, we are open for joint research, joint collaborative activities. So you are most welcome to contact us. This is our team. These are all our council members, which is headed by our president, Professor PC Mankodi. He is presently retired head, heading zoology department of MS University, Baroda. And along with them, these are all the board of directors. Each zone of Gujarat has some or the other representative of zoology. So it's an association started from Gujarat but has no end. Even we want to work at international levels. These are few of the programs that zoologist group has conducted till date. A lot of different kinds of online, offline expert talks, different kinds of symposias, workshops, commemorating different days like Ocean Day and Wildlife, no Animal Week, things relevant to zoology. Apart from online, we also do offline programs. So we provide field training programs to the faculties and the students, and there are two lecture series going on in association. One is offline AOZ lecture series, which is organized at MS University Baroda, and the online lecture series, rather success series of our alumni, which you are into presently, listening to one of the episode today. You can follow us on any of these social medias. The introductory aspects of AOZ is also available online on our YouTube channel. So you can once again go there. In the description box you will find all the links, even for the registration as a member. The required Google form link is available over there. We are presently 60 members. Our head office is based at Department of Life Sciences, Gujarat University. And for any of the queries or any of your opinions, suggestions, and your required interaction, you may contact us at zoologist uh, association 2020 at the rate gmail.com. I once again repeat, we are open for collaborations. If you want to do some donations, these are our bank accounts. You can reach out by email and can further discuss. And we welcome donations for conducting good activities for our young students and faculties and doing different training programs. So this was a short brief introduction about AOZ. I would also take a minute to show you the upcoming field workshop, which is to take place in July. So 10th to 12th July, there is a basic field ecology workshop which is organized at Jambugoda Wildlife Sanctuary, and we have the resource person, Miss Christy Sylvia. She is a consultant in Tiger Conservation Program, WWF India. So for that, you can look into our social media accounts. You will find the detail of the same leaflet, and or you can even contact at our email address, and or you may write no ring up at the phone number displayed into the screen. So friends, do join in the different activities of AOZ and let us know how you feel. So let's invite our guest today. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Sunita Jana Pandya. She is with us all the way from Canada. She has joined. Thank you, ma'am, for sparing the time for us today, and especially our good young minds who always wait for this series to happen and want to listen to people like you who have made their some milestone stand somewhere in the world today. So I once again welcome you on our AOZ platform. Uh, Everybody, before I actually talk about what or like what I usually do during this series is discussing the journey of our guest. Before I do that, let me tell you exactly who Sunita Pandya is, whom you are going to actually meet or talk about. So she is a BSc zoologist, cleared from MS University, Baroda, and later on she opted for MSc Medical Physiology in Baroda Medical College, and that's how things change for a zoologist. Stepping into an area which usually is not preferred by many, she chose to be a part of medical physiology, and she also continued for a brief time period as an professor in physiology at DY Patil Medical College. She has completed her PhD in a very interesting topic, again from Baroda Medical College, under the guidance of no her PhD professor and the head of the Department of Physiology, Dr. Geeta Hathi, in respiratory physiology. So you would be no interested to know that Dr. Sunita had completed her PhD in how the breathing is affected in the menstrual phase of female. So a very uncommon and unusual thing that she had been working with. Later, she also had a chance to work at BJ Medical College, Ahmedabad, as in a tutor in physiology. And there was no looking back. She came forward as in no person in the field of clinical sciences as well. So she worked as no a clinical researcher for a very long period of time for all the major phases, 1 to 4 phases, over this Canada itself. So she was working as an study coordinator at a allergy and asthma research clinic in Greater Toronto area, Ontario, and then she was working as a clinical trials expert and gained lot of basic no research experience over there. From there, she moved to pharma, AstraZeneca, as a country study delivery lead, and she also managed AZ phase 2 and 3 clinical trials in Canada. No looking back, she is presently working in Roche, Canada now. No, as in clinical operations lead, managing the operations in Canada as well as in US, with number of projects which are related to neuroimmunology. So, ma'am, you have a vast journey of no experience with respect to starting as a physiologist student and coming into some area which is doing, like, I can understand the excitement as I teach in biotech, what it means to do actual clinical trials at level 4. So it is something very different, no laboratory requirement and that discipline and all. And I'm sure from a field zoology stepping into something like a closed door laboratory is really very very different for you also, but a very interesting journey to start with. So how you started, no, coming into, like, everybody in 11 12, they have this issue that what should I select and what should I study. So how did you came across BSc zoology?
Thank you for introducing me, Nehal. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And thank you for having me here. So, growing up as a child, I wanted to become a teacher. And, in school, I liked geography and biology. I guess in grade 11 and 12, like biology was like my top interest. I was also my biology teacher's pet because, I was really good in dissections. So, how we used to have wax trays in those times?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember my first dissection was the digestive system of a frog, and I actually dissected it and then pinned it, on the wax tray. It was so well mounted. It looked exactly like how it showed in the book,
Diagram, yeah.
in the diagram. So since then she was like, she would be very close with me with dissections and stuff. She would make sure that I learn and then I teach people. So, in a way she influenced me as well. She was a zoologist, so she used to talk about her field trips. She would talk about, all her experiences, with, even dissecting micro, not micro per se, but like, insects and stuff. And it intrigued me. I'm like, how can you do it? And it just, I guess, she was a big influence for me. And I knew when I finished my grade 12 that I really want to be in field of biology, and that too in zoology, because of those fine motor skills that I had developed with her. So that's how I landed. So I applied for zoology, and trust me, I applied only for zoology, none of the other.
Oh, wow. That's good to know. That's really good to know. So you always wanted to be in zoology.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, so a very, very clear decision that it has
yeah.
to be zoology. So I'm so happy to know that somebody got into the subject because they were doing dissection and that made them interested, and they got into the subject. Unfortunately, now in India, dissections are banned. So that is again a very, very controversial aspect that the students don't get to see the internal system. So because you actually started your whole journey of doing graduation as you dissected something, you saw that, and that made you, go into the subject. So how would be your reaction to this, that now students don't do any dissection, they just don't come across animals?
See, my personal perspective, and especially in speaking from my pharma world background, I feel we owe almost all of our modern medical advancement to the use of lab animals, right? Even though there are differences between human and animals, animals are still contributing massively to the biomedical research. So I believe the common argument is, technology has advanced to a point where today we just don't need animal models. But I mean, don't get me wrong, but there are some phenomenal advancements, with computational modeling, cell and tissue culture techniques. Some labs even have, those equipments to 3D print some organs. But the issue is, if we want to create therapeutics for human use, ultimately, right, we are not yet at a point where we can, eliminate animal or their products, completely cut them out from research, without it, greatly sort of impacting, or hindering things. Like for me, like cells in a petri dish lack that overall organ architecture, right, which in some areas of research is super important. And like a 3D printed, organ lacks that interaction with other organs. We are not just
Yes.
collection of bunch of organs really close together. All our organs communicate with one another. And you know how the circulatory system and the immune system plays such a huge role too. So I feel banning these altogether will impact high risk research. I think there should be more of a reasonable approach, establish some minimum standards, to actually continue with animal research. That's my perspective.
Yeah, that's really true. So, in your resume, you are writing that you are an operation lead for the clinical work. So, what kind of work profile you actually have to come across, at this stage?
So I guess I'll have to start a little bit with, clinical research background. So technically, what is research, clinical research? In a very lame and very simple language, it's, before any drugs comes into the market, they need to be tested. They need to be tested first in, maybe animal model, even it's starting from tissue model or animal model, and then it gets to human research. So human research, when the test product is used or try tested for the first time in human, that is where what comprises the clinical research. So in my current role as a clinical operation lead, basically, these clinical research are based on protocols. There are protocols built, and based on that you actually collect data. It is human data that you're collecting. So I currently am managing clinical trials in the US. So what my responsibilities or accountabilities are is basically select those sites, that would actually enroll patients and collect the data and send it in to us. All along I have to maintain that oversight that data is, the protocol. First of all, protocol is being followed, local regulations are being followed, country regulations or federal regulations are being followed, and then data is collected which is good in quality. So it entails training the sites or training the physicians and the research team at the site level for them to actually collect that data and send it to us. And once the data is collected, then it gets into the analysis mode and then the reporting mode. And so that piece of selecting the sites, bringing them on board, training them, preparing them, and ensuring that the data that is collected is collected in that quality requirements, within that quality requirements, is my responsibility. And I lead a team of clinical researchers out there who are actually working with each of those sites.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, you have to actually do the directional role for these people,
Yeah,
how they are
it's a
going
very
to actually.
strategic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really that requires an immense previous experience to lead.
Yes, and
Yeah, so
also
with
it needs that science background as well. It needs that science
yeah,
background.
yeah,
It needs that the basics that our education in zoology actually provides you, that foundation, right? So you need that, like, because the protocols are scientific. If you don't understand the protocol, you
yeah.
won't be able to train. So basic, yeah.
That's so interesting. So that brings me back to your BSc days. That most of the students after BSc zoology would prefer continuing in MSc zoology, or maybe they'll switch the branches to maybe biochem if they can clear or crack some exams, or take life sciences, something like that. Very few I have heard, or maybe hardly have I come across somebody opting for MSc physiology. So how come you came across that I don't want to do zoology, MSc, and let me go in a very specific area of this, and it's physiology.
So Nehal, to be very honest with you, with when it came to masters, I actually had applied to MSc zoology as well, and later on to MSc physiology. And there's a story behind it. Basically, I fell in love with physiology. It just intrigued me. I wanted to learn more about physiology. The comparative physiology was so interesting for me. It just intrigued me to learn further. So I knew MSc Part 2, we had like an MSc Part 1 and MSc 2, they had advanced physiology and endocrinology. So my goal was to go there. In the meantime, as I was talking to you earlier, my uncle, he is a physiologist. He's a clinical hypnotherapist. He was, sorry. He was a clinical physiotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist. And my cousin actually was a professor in a medical college, Baroda Medical College, working in physiology. So he was the one who pulled me into MSc physiology, MSc medical physiology. So I, at that point, it was that point where you think about, where do I want to go? Like, how many years do I want to spend in my masters? Because as you know, medical physiology is 3.5 year course, versus your masters in zoology is 2 years course, right? So I had to make that decision. And I, at that point, I guess, once I finished my bachelor's, I was so much into learning. I wanted to, there was that curiosity. I wanted to learn more. And I'm like, you know what, the years won't matter. And human physiology is something that I started to have that passion for. So that's how I went into medical
Okay, yeah,
physiology.
medical physiology. So all the faculties who are with us, this point is to be noted that students, when we offer them endocrinology and comparative physiology subjects, there can be somebody who has a deep interest developed in physiology through zoology, and then they
Yes.
make their careers into it. And the students who are listening, this is to be noted that you also have an option after BSc to choose and go for not only biochemistry or pure zoology, but you also have a choice in physiology. So that's really interesting, because most of the zoology students, they, I don't think so, or very few might be knowing that they can opt for subjects like this also at master's level. So interesting to note this aspect of yours. So after your all these things, I'm sure the PhD profile would have been little different compared to MSc and the BSc aspects. So can you just tell us some or the other, few of your golden memories about being in BSc zoology and the transit from BSc to MSc, something which you really know still you, it's in your heart that okay, this is what is helping me even today because I did it in BSc zoology, something like that.
As I said, comparative physiology. So it's funny,
Yeah.
like when I was in my master's, we had one paper on comparative physiology in medical physiology. So I remember, I was the one who had taken about 7 or 8 supplementaries. Remember, for one question as to explain the comparative physiology. And my professor, when she reviewed it, she was like, Sunita, you just poured out your heart, everything that you learned, all of your BSc, I guess you poured it out here. Because I just couldn't stop. I just went on explaining at every level, how it evolved. And it stayed with me all along, even today. It even when see in clinical research we have preclinical research, which is basically animal research, right? And when you're working in like clinical trials, where you're working with human volunteers and protocols, you also have one a very important element called investigative brochure. So investigative brochure is where all that preclinical data is sort of summarized for investigators. So I am one of the, I would say rare ones in risk clinical research who wants to read those data, because I understand. I understand, and I can relate because of my zoology days or my zoology learning. So yeah,
That's so wonderful
I
to
have
know. Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah. So because you have been such a, a hardcore clinical researcher, so if some student wants to really go into this branch, what would be your suggestion how they should prepare for these kind of courses in future?
So you know what? I don't know if there are all universities are actually offering those courses, clinical research courses. But in here in Canada or even in the US, after you've done your life sciences, under life sciences, you could have done botany or zoology, whatever. If you've done that, your
Hmm.
life sciences background is what is required for you to actually get into clinical research. There are certification courses, there are master's courses, there are bachelor courses now as well available over here. So something along the line. So if that is something you're passionate about, if you're interested in, I guess you could always explore that avenue. Look into if there are courses that you could take on after your bachelor's, and maybe take that journey. And there's so many opportunities out there. All they need is your science background. And I personally feel within life sciences, having a zoology background actually helps you a lot.
Okay.
Be it if you want to go into, say, preclinical research, that background is going to be very helpful for you. Or you want to be part of the clinical research or clinical trials, or even observational studies, that background really helps. That scientific knowledge, that it
Hmm.
really helps.
Yeah, that's so good to know. And like this is like the know what kind of eligibility criteria they might need when they want to try for clinical research. But like as in person, what kind of skills and what kind of discipline a student should form and or come into an habit, so that when they actually start working, because many a times we have seen that they have a very big imaginary fantasy, and when actually they go to the lab, they crack down, they can just not perform. So what kind of skills they would be in need of so that they can work upon it? Because I've seen many students, it's very difficult for them to sustain even 2 hours in the laboratory. So I think that cannot help them when they are into doing the trials at third level or fourth level, phase 4 stages. So what is your suggestion for them?
Essentially, I would say, you really have to be involved. You have to have that learning mindset, and you need to be involved. What I see in here in Western countries is basically, when you're doing your master's or even in bachelor's, you have these opportunities to work with your professors. So you could be assisting them with their research work, or be part, kind of, you are a research assistant for them. Um, and, and this is, sometimes it's on a voluntary basis, it's not even a paid sort of a job, but students do opt for it to gain that experience, to understand, also to explore whether they really like it. Is it something
Yeah.
that they can visualize themselves for doing it long term? So take those opportunities, shadow researchers, shadow your teachers, or professors, or anyone who's working in that field. Understand whether you like it. um, Also, another key thing is, reading. You have to as you know, references, you have to collect references, right? So look into what within that area or field do you really feel passion for, and follow that. Go deeper into it, learn deep, look out for more references, read them, cross references, um, gain knowledge, and you know see how things are done, and see if those whatever resources you need to further that interest of yours, or to jump into that, take a deeper dive into that research area, see if it is going to be available for you. So I guess, having that open mindset to learn, to gain knowledge, to shadow, to that would help, I would say.
Okay, okay. So that is needed. And on that note, as you are saying, would you suggest any kind of changes that should be brought to the undergraduate courses or postgraduate courses, so that that can help the students deal with this kind of clinical studies further?
See, here, as I said, I was explaining, it's very student oriented education. It's more hands on.
Okay.
So just providing that environment of free and creative inquiry within which your critical thinking, you start generating new ideas, problem solving or practical skills, even humane values are cultivated and sustained. So in here, what I see is they are assigned some assignments. Sometimes it in groups, sometimes it's individual or two people. That's where you start learning those teamwork, or sort of throwing out ideas, being each other's thought boards,
Hmm.
listening. It sort of and teaches you that listening skill, which is very important. um, so that sort of, if that sort of an environment is provided where students develop their critical thinking, their strategic thinking, that would be really helpful. Like, so for me, when I went into masters, MSc physiology, we were for us to graduate, we needed to do a thesis. So
Yeah.
that's where you start that first step of research, because you're studying with research, preliminary though, but still you're studying with research, collecting data, analyzing data, statistical analysis, and putting it in there, collecting all the references, compiling your thesis. So start early, I would say, so that you inculcate that habit of researching, get into that mode of researching.
Okay. And there are some subjects like biosafety and bioethics, which might be somewhere relevant to clinical research. So, do you come across that when you are working as an no, because you lead a complete research team, and do you suggest that those should be incorporated somewhere in zoology syllabus?
Yes, definitely should be. Even with animal use in the labs, that aspect of act or animal act should be introduced. Just yes, bioethics is very important. Safe biosafety is very important. That should be incorporated in zoology. I know when it comes to clinical research courses, they would incorporate the regulations, the ethics, and the safety aspect and all of that. But introducing it earlier on, somehow incorporating in our bachelor's, right from the bachelor's degree on, would be really helpful. Yes.
Okay, okay. And how about animal handling? Because now they don't come across animals unless they are going to pick up some research wherein they have to do some animal study. Then, too, that is very limited. So, if they are testing something with mice, maybe one or two mice or four mice at the most. So, in that case, how these students would get or gain this animal, hands on?
See now, I was talking to you earlier, you know, those nowadays there's so much of advancement, technological advancement, right? There are those computational models, animal models that you know you can start with, um, and slowly, you know, you gain that knowledge, and where you feel that you really need to use an animal model to further your research, that's when you know you look for or ask for, you know, I don't know, is there a legislation? I'm not sure how it works over there, but like in Canada,
Yeah.
for instance, we have a legislation, we have an animal act, and we do have something called good animal practices that you know certification needs to be taken, and that needs to be renewed on a regular basis. So if those stringent measures are taken, you know, some standards, basic standards are established, I guess, you know, based on that, you can justify your use of animals and learn more. But initially, you could start off, you know, to see if you can replace animal model with like computational models or tissue or cell culture techniques and stuff. And then later on, you know, look into how minimally you can use and how to the best you can use the animal models.
Yeah. So, on that note, because you have such a vast experience of undertaking research, so those who are not willing to be a part of some pharma companies as in clinical aspect, but would like to do some research, what would be your key takeaways for those people who really want to do some good research?
See, it doesn't have to be pharma. You know, research actually starts at academia. It starts in universities, it starts in
Mhm.
colleges, right? So it doesn't have to be pharma. You can start over there. That is the data that is being collected by the pharma company to further that research or that molecule development, right? So I would say, you know, indulge in research, get the hands-on experience, learn more, and then avenues will open up automatically for you. um, you could go into labs, research labs, which are you know independent of the pharma, just to further that area of yours, or to progress your learning.
Yeah, and I'm sure it hasn't been an easy journey going from BSc zoology and then MSc physiology and then doing a research in respiratory physiology and later on going through clinical phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and now leading a complete project in neuroimmunology. So definitely must have been some ups and downs during this whole of the journey. So what kept you continue with the field, and how do you like gain your own inspiration so that everybody gets a low and high? So how do you manage to keep yourself going throughout this journey?
Interesting you asked me that. So let me tell you, like, you know, I started off with zoology, got into MSc medical physiology. At that point, I was, as I said, I was working in medical college as, you know, assistant, initially as tutor and then assistant professor. It was a different world. I really enjoyed it. You know, you feel young being with students all along, right? And then there was this phase where we decided to immigrate to Canada, and then I'm like, okay, I came in, and my PhD thesis, I actually defended the thesis and moved to Canada. So it was, I didn't have time in between. So I had this aspirations because I was so much into that research mode within my PhD timings for so many years, right? I aspired to do a postdoc. So I'm like, yeah, now I've got, you know, everything is going to open up for me. You know, I'm going to a new country. It's known as, you know, there's so many opportunities. It offers a lot of opportunities. So I came in with a lot of aspirations to get into postdoc. So when I arrived here and I started applying to universities, I started connecting with researchers around. I remember one day, I was called at one of the universities and they said, oh, would you like to work in our lab? And I'm like, yeah, let me see. And I went in there and I entered, and everybody's, into the thing. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to survive here. I don't think this is for me. Because when in talking to them, I realized that they were they used to be in the lab like almost like day and night. Even on Saturdays, Sundays, they're living in the campus. They're always, because they have their time criteria to go and check their whatever they're working on a regular basis, on a timely
Yeah.
basis, the time points and stuff. They're maintaining that, and they're in and out of the thing. And then I asked, what are they being paid? I mean, I was curious, and it was like not as much. And I'm like, okay, this is, so that at that point I had to make this decisions, as a newcomer, as an immigrant. You come with less resources, like in terms of
Yeah.
finances, right?
Yeah.
So you have to also put your foot in the door, and you also have to kind of gain that footing in the country, right? That's when I said, okay, I don't think I'll be able to do this, because I also, at that point, my son was really young and he needed me too. I had my family to manage, so I
Yeah.
said I can't be completely devoted to a lab, and that is what was the sort of expectation. So I'm like, okay, I need to look into something aligned. And that's when I actually came across, and this was very accidentally that I came across clinical research. Um, and just the research word caught me, like, because you're in that
Yeah.
constant mode of research that caught me. And I started to, I explored it, and because it was aligned to physiology, like, you need to know physiology to understand diseases, to understand pathology. So then it drew me. And when I started off, as you know, I started off my career as a study coordinator. I enjoyed that patient interaction so much, because that is where you're actually working with the patient directly. I really enjoyed. I was at a comfort zone. I did not want to leave that job because I was interacting with patients every day. I was, I could see the changes. I could feel, it was really good. And and then when I went into pharma, that one piece is something that I really missed. That patient interaction, being so close to patient, I missed. But what kept me driving was that I knew the impact that we were making out of our research. What was the impact that was being made? That actually kept me driving. We knew we were making a meaningful difference in the life of a person, and that is what actually brings me to work every single day. Just thinking of that impact, and
It's such
how
a
much
deep
of a benefit we are
satisfaction.
making.
Yeah, a lot of satisfaction comes in
Yes,
when you see that it's improving somebody's life.
yes.
Yeah, so nice to know that. And it's everybody should note this, that it's a long journey to get a success. It's not like a day's matter. It comes with lot of patience, consistent trial, and continuing the process and being a part of the process. So that's how you gain ultimately what you want to. So
Another
Sunita ji,
thing I would,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but one
Yeah,
thing I would add is, follow your heart.
yeah.
Follow your heart, follow your passion. If you like something, whatever hindrances you may come across, any barriers, any challenges, that would, you'll be able to manage it, you'll be able to overcome it, because there's that passion in you to actually, learn or do something or make a difference or whatever it is, make a career for yourself or grow professionally or personally. So just that piece is very important. Follow your heart, follow your passion.
Yeah.
I remember when I actually, um I was just in general, people would talk, and they would like, zoology, man, what would you do after zoology? Zoology. And I'm like, no, none of the subjects that are there, in anywhere, they are not worthless. If you can master it, if you can really excel in it, you have a career, you have a, it'll get you very, very far. So
Mhm.
remember that it's all about, building that passion, or having that passion, that interest, and following your heart.
Very, very interesting. So, Sunita ji, what is your no, like, out of your this whole life journey? If you have to gist it out and no, give one or two main points to students, what would be your advice to them?
As I said, don't take it for granted. Don't just undermine your subject. It has value. You
Mhm.
don't know how many, you know even while thinking, what have I studied in zoology. There were so many disciplines in there, within there, right? And there's so much that you could actually diversify yourself in. You don't know, there are a lot of avenues that will open up once you actually put your foot in, and with that mindset to grow, to learn and grow, you'll see a lot of doors will open up for you. And there are so many opportunities that even I don't know today. But as I said, I landed up with clinical research. It was sort of accidental, but and that's another way where I found that there are other opportunities within the world of clinical research, where zoologist or a life sciences background can really help you grow. There are a lot of opportunities. So follow your heart, follow your passion, and don't undermine any of your subjects, or your discipline.
Yeah. So, on a lighter note, what are your golden memories of being a part of MS University?
um, the field trips. I told you about dissections. I really enjoyed lab work in zoology. I still vividly remember our lab, with all the specimens around, and our tables in between. I really liked all the dissections we've done, except for one, the cockroach. For some reason I didn't like that. But yeah, that and the field trips, they were so interesting. Like, it was learning as well as fun. And another interesting thing is I met my husband there as well, a
Oh,
master zoologist too.
this is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
is he also a zoologist?
yes, he is.
Oh, really? That's good to know. So, the subject can also offer you a family.
Yes.
Interesting, interesting. Right, right, right. So you definitely have a lot of memories to it. So we are approaching the end of today's interview, and it has been really good listening to your journey and all the advices and remarks that you have told. They are really, really very important insights for everybody here. So before I close this down, India has recently introduced National Education Policy 2020, wherein we are making lot of changes at starting from kindergarten till that of PhD levels. So things are changing fast with the subject. But on that note, what would be your suggestion? Any suggestions you feel after being abroad? You're working with US and you're also a part of Canada past so many years. So you feel that there needs to be certain things very important that should be incorporated in bringing changes in this new policy.
Yeah, definitely. As I was talking earlier as well, introducing those broader subjects, and also like integrative biology, like, more hands-on projects, offering projects to students, even in bachelors, like even if they're small sort of case studies and stuff, something like that.
Yeah.
Bioethics, as you said, biosafety, that would just broaden up your avenues to take it further, as your in your career. um, yeah. Introducing, what are the fields that you could go into, and just the gist of it, like, in certain courses. That would
Yes,
help.
yes. And do you think that in present scenario, multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approaches would be a help to the student?
Definitely, definitely it will be. So yeah, whatever we could do to facilitate that and bring that to the students, of course.
Because in mostly Indian studies they are very very conventionally specific, so they don't like two areas don't want to mix up. So physics is there, physics will say no, I can only do this and it's only my forte, and then biology will say no, this is only my forte. They don't mix up. That's how we are like conventionally grown into the subjects. But what I see now is, and with your clinical studies and all, I think, and that is, I think, what is our new policy also willing to have, that is multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary aspects to be approached.
Cross
So
functional, getting cross functional, bringing in, yeah, elements of every other discipline into the. Yes, definitely it'll take it a long way.
yeah. Okay. So, well, everybody, we are open for the questions and the comments. If you have anything to share, I'll just wait for a few seconds and you can just post your questions into the chat box and I can ask Sunita ji about it. So, in between, Dr. Pradeep Mankodi sir from MS University, he is with us right now, and he says that. Now Gujarat offers clinical research courses, and the topics that you were discussing about legislation and all those things are also included into MS University syllabus. So if the other faculties and people from around no other places, if whenever you listen to this, please make sure that during your syllabus you include these kind of topics for the betterment of your students. So I don't see any questions. So Sunita, we can end up the session for the day today. And I once again, on behalf of AOZ office bearers and all our viewers, thank no heartily thank you that you spared so much of time and discussed so much of your experience onto this floor. It was so wonderful to talk to you, and I can very much relate with your physiological topics, as my work is also on premenstrual syndrome. So it really matters a lot to know about human physiology. So thank you so much, and we wish you all the best for your further projects in your clinical research. Hope we meet once again on similar no platforms, and we may invite you again on AOZ for some expert talk. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. And I just wanted to plug in. If anyone needs to talk to me, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to, guide you or assist you or answer your questions if you have, for sure.
Surely, surely. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.